Hi guys, welcome to another Citrus Twist Kits workshop video. This is Lydia Cost here, and I'm so happy to be here. Today I am working with the June 2019 add-on kit, and I'm going to be using it today to alter this cute little vintage beauty book. And my goal is to use it for all the selfies I take this year. So I just thought it was perfect. It's has some illustrations in there of cute little retro ladies with beauty and makeup and that type of thing. So it was just, I thought, the perfect addition for this particular project. So right now I'm going to show you how I like to alter my vintage books. So basically what I do is I decide what pages I want to keep. Generally, I am going to cut 4 pages out every 4 pages. I did decide on this one that I wanted to get rid of those first 2 title pages simply because they were thicker cardstock, and I didn't like the way they felt in the book, and I didn't want that to be the first page as you open the book. So here I am taking my X-Acto knife and I'm placing a thick sheet of plastic behind it so I don't cut the pages behind. And then I'm just taking my X-Acto knife, putting an even amount of pressure, and I am running it down the page near the spine, but not quite at it, so you don't cause those signatures to tear out. And then you're just going to pull that page out, and it should come out pretty cleanly and look pretty nice. So then I'm gonna flip through here and try to figure out how many pages I want to go through. This is a fairly thick vintage book, so I'm probably gonna do 4 pages every 4 pages like normal, and maybe take out a few extra, so maybe 6 every 4 pages or 8 every 4 pages. So you'll see me rifle through here, and I actually love the illustrations in here, so it's kind of hard for me to choose which ones to cut out, but I did end up going with 4 every 4. So you'll see again here, like I said, I've flipped over after my first cut. I've taken 4 pages that I plan to keep, and then I've taken these 4 pages here, and I'm just going to slice neatly along the spine. It's about, I would say, 1/4 of a centimeter from the spine is where you're going to make your cut. So that will cut nicely and pull right out of the book without any problem to the signature. So here I'm just continuing throughout my book. I don't actually go through the entire process here because I think it's self-explanatory, but I did want to show a few pages just so that you're certain on how to get this accomplished. It will take out a bunch of chunk to your book, and you do that simply because when you're adding things back in, larger, thicker embellishments, it's going to create bulk. So you don't want this big book to be bulky. You want it to kind of stay its original size. So if you take out those pages, then it's going to have plenty of room for you to stick in whatever you want, or any embellishment or wood veneer, or in, for instance, this month's kit, we have these amazing foam phrases. So there's just lots of room in there for you to be able to put your photos and layer in paper and embellishments. So cutting out these pages makes room for that. Okay, so after you have finished cutting out your pages, you think it's at a pretty good thickness to make room for your estimated amount of pages. I normally do about 15 pages in my book, so that's going to be a good amount for me. I have decided that I am going to use the kit, the add-on kit, to not only decorate my front cover. I'm pretty much going to leave it as is because I love this purple lavendery color with the pinks in this month's add-on kit. So you'll see me kind of pick out this floral page from the Sunny Days collection from Crate Paper Maggie Holmes, and I decide I want to fussy cut those flowers to go on there. So that's kind of where I'm starting. Sometimes when I'm creating, I don't necessarily have an idea of where I want to end up. I just pick out my color scheme, I pick out things that I like, and then somehow it ends up on my project in a style that suits me. So here I'm just gonna fussy cut out these florals from the Sunny Days collection, and my idea is to layer those up on top of my book with these great little mini doilies that also come in the add-in kit this month. I'm actually quite a perfectionist. So there's this little area between a stem and a leaf that has that golden background color. And I'm going to come in with my X-Acto knife, and I am going to fussy cut that out with my X-Acto knife so that it has a nice, clean look. There's no extra pieces. So now I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm just going to kind of play around with it, see where I want it to go on the cover of my book here. I know I mentioned earlier that I love this purplish lavender color, so I knew that I didn't want to spray paint my book. I didn't want to cover it with paint. So what I'm doing now is deciding where I want these elements to kind of sit, considering it does have this pretty silver writing for the title, and then this pretty silver retro lady illustration. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep that as a part of it or if I wanted to cover it up, and I do end up covering it up for the most part. I rearranged my doily, my mini doily, around on the front of that book here and made room for another floral. You'll see that later in the video. Here, I'm just kind of making sure that I want to use that pretty L from the Maggie Holmes Sunny Days Alpha Ephemera set that comes in this month's add-on kit. These are great alphas and numbers, and they're in very different styles and shapes and sizes. So I just love that ephemera pack, and I do actually stick with the L. L for my first name, Lydia. So I just really love that, and I loved that it was pink, so it matched my color scheme. Just kind of sifting through the ephemera in the add-on kit, which is the Pink Fresh Studio Joyful Day collection. Those are really beautiful, and they match this month's kit perfectly. So here I am pulling out the tape I plan to use to adhere everything onto the front of my cover. You're going to want to use a nice red liner tape. It's very sticky and will not goo up or fall off after an extended period of time or extended use opening and shutting the book. So you want to make sure you're using an adhesive that's going to be very tacky for a long period of time. So for me, I personally prefer red liner tape. It's just the best as far as I'm concerned when you're sticking to not necessarily paper to paper, but maybe paper to cardboard or paper to plastic. So red liner tape is going to be a great option for that. Here you've seen that I have chosen to move that doily down to the left-hand corner and cover up the title and illustration. And the floral that I fussy cut out of that Maggie Holmes sheet actually has a bit of a straight side. So I'm gonna line that up with the edge of my book there, and that way it looks like the cut is intentional. So I've actually, and have, if you can tell, there is a little bit of silver writing left hanging over the edge of the doily. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to cover that up with. This piece, this leftover piece, didn't quite work for me. So I'm going to pull back out that full 12 by 12 sheet and I'm gonna find myself a little bud with a stem and a leaf to fit there. After I got that little guy fussy cut, I'm gonna go in here and kind of just stick him on the end so he looks like he's a continuation of the larger floral up at the top there. Now that I've got everything arranged the way I want to, I'm finally going to go in and take my extra tacky double-sided tape, and I am going to start adhering everything down onto my book front. This month's add-on kit comes with these great Pink Fresh Studio Joyful Day puffy stickers, and there's a little bit of yellow in that floral background, so I wanted to bring that in. These puffy stickers had this great yellow rectangular, like a word-fetty kind of puffy sticker, and I thought that would look perfect layered over top of my L. Lastly, I decide here that every book cover deserves a little bit of enamel, so I am picking out these pretty yellow enamel dots that come in the regular Life Crafted kit this month. And I'm just layering those up, create a little more dimension on the front cover of my book and a little more attention to detail so that it's eye-catching and pretty. Now for my cover page on the inside, this is where I generally put my main title. You know, I don't always include that on my book covers, but here I'm going to put my main title. So I'm just sifting through. Wasn't quite sure at this point what I was going to work with. I'm sifting through the ephemera, seeing if maybe that's something I want to use. I get to the point where I pull out a little wreath that's in the Joyful Day ephemera pack from Pink Fresh. And I also pull out this cute as ever yellow bow. I just think that was so cute, and I knew I wanted to use the bow at least. Here I am sifting back through those, the Sunny Day ephemera, alpha and numerical ephemera, and I am looking for the letter S at this point. I'm not sure what color it's going to be, but I'm hoping it works out, and it does work out in my favor because it's that great yellow that I used on the front page. So I wanted the S so that I could use the thickers that come in the add-on kit to spell out selfie. So that S is for selfie. So here I'm pulling out those great thickers. These are actually from one of Crate Paper's new collections, Happy Heart, I think is what it's called. And I am obsessed with these thickers. So they layer on perfectly, and I'm a sucker for foam, as we've already determined. So perfect addition to my little cover page here. I'm going to come in with my mini stapler here, and I'm going to staple on that cute little bow that was in the Pink Fresh ephemera pack. And I'm just gonna staple it right on top of my thickers there and fluff up the bow for some added dimension. I knew that I wanted to add the year. I always add the year somewhere to whatever project I'm working on, because as time goes by, I often forget what year things are. So here, I'm just going to tack on 2019 to the bottom of this little cover page. And these little alphas are from the main Life Crafted kit, and they are a kind of a metallic black on white, so they're really beautiful. I have adhered down my little card on the cover page there, and I have decided that I want to come in with my sewing machine, and I want to do a little decorative stitch at the bottom in yellow. So I'm pulling out my sewing machine here, and you'll see the way I kind of bend back my page and my spine so that I can shoot it through my sewing machine real easily. It's not a hard feat with this size of book, so you won't have any issues with that. I actually had some issues with my fingers not wanting to get the thread through the needle, so I'll go ahead and give you a little tip on using your sewing machine for altered projects or in your books or on your scrapbook pages. Basically, there's only two things you need to know. One is always use a separate needle for your paper projects and your fabric projects. So, of course, stitching on paper is going to dull your needle. So you always want to make sure you use the same needle for that, opposed to the same one that you might be using with fabric. Another thing when you're stitching in your altered books is that the reason we use 2 pages per 1 page is that I like to do a lot of stitching on my top page. So I'm going to adhere those 2 pages together after I've done all my stitching. So any of those ugly back sides of pages are going to be hidden because those two pages are going to be adhered together. So you can even go in and you could stitch around the edge of the page. You could stitch those two pages together so that when you flip the page to the next page, you don't see any of that ugly stuff on the background, and it also doesn't bleed into the page behind it. So here's kind of what an explanation of what I was talking about there. It's just two pages that I'm gonna, you could stitch along the edge here, and then so you have a clean page on the back side. So for instance, here's a little example. So I'm gonna add my first selfie here, and then I won't have any of the stitching that I did on this page bleed through onto the next page that I'm going to be working on. So that's just a great example for how to work in an altered book. Here is one that I worked in recently, so you can tell that there are lots of different ways that you can work in altered books. You can cut out the pages, you can make little pockets, you can make shaker pockets, you can stitch on some journaling, all kinds of different ways. I also love to add a tassel to my book binding, so that is something you can do as well. So basically that is the start to my little altered book. Here's a look at the cover again using the June 2019 add-on kit, and I had a blast showing you guys how I work with altered books, and I hope you're inspired.